Hi guys, this is Jason here, and on this week's episode of ReelFilms, we're going to be talking about The Monkey. I have a special guest here with me today. Eric,
Hi.
Please introduce yourself.
Hi guys, my name is Eric Agar. I'm a writer for Geekwave and also the host of a little show you may have heard, like a little podcast show called Geek Out. I don't know if you've heard of it, but yeah, one of the other podcast hosts, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me, Jason.
Of course. Last night we saw The Monkey, and it was a movie.
Yeah.
I will say it was a movie. For people that don't know what The Monkey is about, it's basically about twin brothers. They inherit a toy monkey, and if you crank the monkey and the monkey starts, banging the drums, somebody dies. That is really the gist of the movie without, spoiling too much of it. The big selling point for this movie, it's based on Stephen King's short story called The Monkey. It's part of, a collection of short stories. And it's also directed by Osgood Perkins, who last year directed Longlegs. And it's also produced by James Wan, who the entire Conjuring universe is literally him, including Saw.
Yeah, needs no introduction.
No introduction. These guys they understand the true craft when it comes to horror film. And yeah, going into this movie, I had very high expectations. Coming out of it, it was... I wasn't expecting it. The tone I was going into it with, I didn't expect it coming out. What about you?
Yeah, I kind of had the same thoughts because I remember, I think it was we talked about this briefly earlier, but we both went to the movie thinking it'd be a really hardcore thriller, very tense, very horror-esque, very scary, kind of like how Nosferatu was. We went to go see it, but no, there are a lot of comedic elements in the movie that I was not expecting, but to be honest, I kind of enjoyed them. The pre-scene, I was cracking up.
Yeah. No, going into the movie for me, I watched Osgood Perkins' Longlegs, and because of that, Longlegs was such a super slow horror movie. It kept building up tension, and then it reached a climax at the end. It was that slow, eerie type of horror film that you're super uncomfortable throughout the entire experience. This movie was completely different. It knew it wanted to be a campy, comedic horror movie where when you see Stephen King, James Wan, Osgood Perkins, that is something I was not expecting. And if you see the trailers, for example, they do kind of have that playful feel.
But they're still slightly serious in tone too.
Yeah, because throughout the trailer's almost like a montage of it has carnival music in the background. Yeah. And then you just see people dying. One of the sequences in the trailer was a mom pushing her stroller.
Yeah, and it's on fire.
The baby's literally on fire. And I was what? This movie is the definition of dark humor.
Yeah.
In a way.
It was kind of interesting because I agree with the trailer too. It really played into the horror a lot. It was very spooky. But then you watch the movie and it's the characters are cracking too many jokes. They're very laid back and kind of like you were mentioning with Longlegs. I personally never seen the movie. I gotta get around to it. Mm-hmm. But you mentioned how that movie really builds up tension and there's a huge climax. I feel like this movie attempted that. But it did not stick the landing. I found the ending to be very anticlimactic.
Yeah.
It ends on a very weird and comedic note. I don't know. I just I was expecting a bit more because I felt the first quarter of the movie was really good. Setting up this monkey kills people and it's stuck to this family, and then we see the family members who have inherited, the two sons. Or the twins, when they're of course we follow them when they're younger, and then we see them as adults. And we're oh, okay, it'll follow the story, and then maybe it'll evolve and stuff like that. But it doesn't really go anywhere. We don't really learn much about the monkey. It kind of felt just a family drama that just so happened to have a killer monkey toy.
Yeah, exactly. The first two acts of this film, it was really fast paced. Things were just going on crazy. I think the first 15 minutes of the movie, we don't care about spoilers.
Yeah.
By the way, if you guys haven't watched the movie, that's on you guys.
Too bad.
Too bad. So sad. But like 3 or 4 people die, like that you're introduced to in like the first 15 minutes of the movie.
Like, it's like, boom, the babysitter dies.
Yes.
Or, like, technically it's first, boom, the shopkeeper dies.
Yeah.
Boom, the babysitter dies.
Yeah.
Boom, the mother dies. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, and then the uncle dies. And then we're only 30 minutes into the movie.
Yeah, and like so the way the movie's like the story's being told, half of the movie it's the twin brothers when they're kids, right? And then the second half of the movie is when they're like grown up, 25 years later, and you know all of that. And one thing this movie has is a lot of child actors. What did you think about the child actors?
I thought they're okay. I've definitely seen worse, both from like, you know, child actors and adult actors, but like they could have done better. Like this was no It Chapter 1 when it comes to like kid actors, but I felt like most of them did okay. I really did not like the character though, and also the performance of what's the name of the twin Hal's son, Petey. I thought his character was just kind of like nothing. Like maybe the writers like forced him on like last minute, like, oh crap, we need a child character. Boom. He's got a son now.
Yeah, like
it felt rushed.
what was really the point of his character? Almost.
Yeah, like I think his only purpose, and once again spoilers, but we don't care. Was when he was sent into like Bill's like fortress or whatever to like retrieve the monkey. That's kind of like his main like point in the movie or like his main moment. But other than that, he didn't really serve any purpose. Like he wasn't really a surrogate character for the audience to follow, you know, like someone they could put their shoes into. He didn't really have that much of a stake. Like I'm pretty sure Hal would have found another way to like hear from his brother and like go on these little adventures, witness the kills, go back to his aunt's place. Like he didn't really need his son there with him, and like I didn't find their conversations very like thought provoking. I know like the story, or from what I've seen, deals a lot with like family trauma, family members leaving abruptly, stuff like that, absentee parents. But like the stuff that they said, or the conversations, the dialogue between Petey and Hal were very surface level in my opinion.
And not just that, like the resolution at the end was literally Hal like telling his twin brother like she was my mother too. Yeah. And he's like, oh, I never thought about it like that. You guys are literally twin brothers. Yeah. How do you not know you guys share the same mom?
That's gotta be almost, if not as equally as dumb as like the Martha scene from Batman v Superman.
That's
like,
exactly what it reminded me of. Like, I didn't even think about it at first.
Guys, our moms have the same last name. The same first name. Sorry. They have the same first name. I guess we're going to stop fighting now. And there's oh yeah, we're twins. We do have the same mom. Let's be friends. And then the twin gets murdered like 5 seconds later.
Yeah, like the thing is, I gave it an exception because the movie was self-aware that it was trying to be like a campy horror movie. That's why I gave like passes on like the child actors, the actor for the son, like certain dialogues. If this movie like had the same tone as Longlegs, for example, oh my gosh, I would be so pissed like watching that movie, and it would have took me out of the experience a lot. But in this movie, what was the other brother? It was Hal, and what was the other brother?
Bill, I believe.
Bill?
Yeah.
Yeah, he had like the stupidest one-liners known to man. But the entire theater was laughing, like including myself, because of how stupid it was. And I think the director and like the writers, like them knowing and like being self-aware of what this project is makes it effective. Like it was a really good theater experience. Like going into it, I was expecting like when you see Stephen King, James Wan, and Osgood Perkins literally on the cover of their movie, you're gonna expect something like sinister almost. Yeah. Something scary, something that's like super unsettling. This movie it's more comedy than horror. It's like a campy comedy movie with like horror elements almost is how I would describe it at least.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. I definitely enjoyed the movie despite what it may sound like I'm saying. I did enjoy the movie. I thought it was a fun time. I don't think it's like one of the best, definitely not one of the best horror movies, like even within like recently. But it was definitely a fun movie, and like you said, like a great theater experience. You know, it's not going to be any like MCU superhero movies where like you go to the theater or Star Wars movie and like the whole like theater is erupting and cheering over. But the atmosphere that the movie carries with it and the moments in it is one that like truly benefits from watching it in a movie theater, you know, on the big screen with the recliners and like multiple strangers and people you know around you. Like, if I watched this at home, I probably would have gotten bored, still finished it, but not felt much of it. But I feel like because I, too, also saw it in the theater, like I was with you and the other people I saw it with, and, like, a bunch of strangers, I feel like that enhanced my experience. And I think that's the reason why I liked it a bit more than I feel like I should, if that kind of makes sense.
No, I get what you mean. Watching movies in theaters makes the movie better. It's so weird. Like, if you're watching a movie on a plane, on your laptop, your TV at home, I don't think any of them will compare to how a movie is when you watch it like on the big screen. Like with the surround sound, the recliner seatings, like the big screen, like you just can't beat it. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, and with like the audio and like you said the giant projector, but also just like being the presence of like other people too. Like I feel like you can still enjoy movies like on the smaller screen, like TVs, laptops, and stuff like that. But unless the movie is like super good on its own, then you're not really gonna get that same experience. And I feel like The Monkey is definitely that case. I will say though, I was really impressed with the gore in this movie.
I was just gonna bring that up. What was your thoughts on the killings of this movie?
I really liked it. I remember actually this morning I rewatched the trailer, and when the top comment was like, "Final Destination plus a monkey," I'm here for it. I feel like that encapsulates this movie perfectly. The kills are so over the top, so random, very dumb. Like some of them I could see as believable, like like the how the babysitter died at the hibachi hot plate place, whatever, and stuff like that. But once we got to the hornet kill, I was like, okay, this is crazy. Like as the monkey's playing the drums, the tree with the hornet says is lower. I'm like, okay, this is just ridiculous.
Also, when that dude like shoots the window, all the hornets go directly through the bullet hole and just into the one dude.
Yeah.
Doesn't even like sting Hal at all when he's in the car. They just go straight for him. I wish there was a little bit more consistency of like, like a common thing you do can be a freak accident. I feel like they could have played into that more. Like, for example, going to a hibachi restaurant. Yeah. Let's say the person is cooking it in front of you.
Actually swings a bit too far.
Yeah, like that is theoretically possible. Also with the lady who got like a bunch of like fishing hooks.
Yeah, the ant.
Yeah. And she was putting like rubbing alcohol to like clean the infected areas, right? Yeah. And then she goes to check on the burner and seeing if it's like if there's like gas leaking out of it.
Yeah.
So she goes like closely up to it. And then it lights up. And then since she does have rubbing alcohol on her face, obviously that's going to catch on fire, which I was like, it's possible. It's just the definition of a freak accident, which I wish they could have played into that a little bit more. I feel like the hornet's nest kill was a little bit too out of it. Yeah.
Or like the woman in the swimming pool, if like a heater or air conditioning or whatever accidentally falls over and electrocutes the wire or something like that. Granted, they probably won't explode. Yeah. But like some of the kills were practical in a way. Like this could accidentally happen to people. But I feel like the Hornets nest kill was like kind of like the last straw in a way, or like this is the beginning of like the goofiness, and then the next part where like half of the town gets murdered is just like, okay, this is pure madness. This is just goofy.
Yeah, I'm like.
And how about that ending with like that ghost horse dude at the end? And
I am so glad you brought that up. I was on TikTok last night looking at like the ending explain stuff, and they related the ending to the four horsemen of the apocalypse, almost like how the monkey is supposed to like resemble like death, and the horseman they saw was the white horseman, right? It literally shows up, and like no one talks about it. And it kind of shows how Hal and his son are the other two horsemen of the apocalypse, and they literally have death in their back seat when they're like taking it wherever. I feel like that's something they could have explored a little bit more, like thematic elements regarding that, because in a way, like nothing is like supernatural elements almost. Like obviously this monkey is like doing something, but there's like no story or like lore behind it as if we know. And it's just weird when him and his son are driving off, they just see a ghost, because that was never – there was like no like that kind of elements throughout the entire movie until the end.
Yeah, I feel like it would have been cool if they hinted at, like, oh yeah, like this toy is possessed by an evil demon that like loves to kill people and like takes pleasure in it. I feel like if we got like a little bit of background about that, like maybe the shopkeeper knew it was like, they say it was like this, they say it was like this, nobody knows for sure. Then I feel like that would have been, you know, a bit better, like maybe grounded the movie in some way. I just wish that like we were given a little bit of context. Granted, I don't think it would have been great if the movie really delved into it. Like, oh, this is the exact history of the monkey. This is what happened to it. This is how the father got. I kind of like that mysteriousness behind it. I would just like a little bit of explanation to what's going on, because you can't just drop like a ghost horse and expect people not to ask the question, what is that? Why is that there?
It's almost like throughout the entire movie, you kind of want them like sprinkle like clues or like hints that like talks about the lore in a way. And it's like they're sprinkling a bunch of puzzle pieces, and you want the audience to like almost like put them together, but they didn't really have any of that.
Yeah, and the only stuff that they sprinkle in is what we could have guessed, like through either Hal's monologuing and stuff like that, his internal thoughts, or like what we've seen. You know, the only lore that we're given about the monkey is that, you turn the key, it kills people, but the person who turns the key will never be killed.
Yeah.
That's it. That's pretty much it. That's all the explanation we get. And then I guess if you force the monkey to do something, he just kills everyone.
Yeah, because I think at the end, I think it was Bill, like he kept like trying to crank it, and then it just cuts to the monkey just going like this
just
the
going
entire
crazy.
Yeah, like Donkey Kong with the drums, you know?
We gotta get like an edit of that, but with the Donkey Kong sound effects.
Yeah, that was so funny. And then going into like the cutting and stuff of this movie, the editing for this movie, I think, was a key piece in bringing the humor. Like, especially in the beginning, whenever something bad happened, it would just cut to the picture of them, like, at the funeral.
Like Uncle Chip, like, I think they were messing around with the monkey for a bit, and they were playing, then the next scene is Uncle Chip's funeral.
Yeah, like the timing and the cuts of this film really help in the comedic aspect they were trying to make.
Yeah. I feel like in that regard, they nailed it. They did a really great job.
Yeah.
And once again, like the practical effects for like the gore were great. Like that sleeping bag kill, it was disgusting, but it was great. Like how they handled it.
Because all they did was they showed the horses trample the dude, and that's it. And then after that, they unpacked the sleeping bag, and it just looks like a bunch of like pomegranates.
Yeah, pomegranate seeds and like ground beef. It looks so gross and visceral. But like for a horror movie, that's fantastic.
Yeah, like going into this movie, I had like high expectations, and going out of this movie, it didn't meet them in a way because it was a different movie than what I was expecting. But I will have to say, I did have a good time.
Yeah, likewise. Though for me personally, I didn't go in with any expectations at all, so I guess that's why I enjoyed it a bit more. Granted, I had the same problems that you do and the same critiques, but like at the end of the day, I still like enjoyed the movie. Granted, like I said before, way more than I feel like I should have, but like it's just overall a fun movie.
Speaking of that, if you were on Letterboxd right now, how many stars out of 5 would you give this movie, Eric?
I'm hovering over like a 3 or 3.5.
3.5? Yeah, I do have a Letterboxd. You guys can check that out in the link below. But I gave The Monkey a 3.5 stars. And I think that's exactly where this movie should be.
Like, it's above average. Like, it's a fun movie. If you and your friends want to go see, like, a comedic horror movie, then 100% recommend it. You guys will have a great time. It won't blow your minds, but...
It blew some people's minds in the movie.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Like Bill's.
Bill's, oh, my gosh. I didn't even think about that. You know, like, how he died was his mom's bowling ball. And in the beginning, when he was a kid, Hal would dream about killing his brother with the bowling ball and crushing his face.
I just realized that.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
It's the same exact bowling ball, and that's exactly how he died.
Very poetic in a way. Yeah.
But for the audience out there, if you like campy horror movies, you like comedy, and you can handle gore, I think that's a big one. I definitely recommend watching this movie. Eric, would you say the same thing?
I agree. And if you're a giant fan of Stephen King, then I'm surprised you haven't watched the movie already.
Exactly.
But overall, pretty fun movie.
It was pretty good. The ending, there is a post-credit scene. for this movie, and that's
It's a shameless plug.
it's a teaser for Osgood Perkins' next film, which also releases this year in October, which is called The Keeper. And after watching the trailer and the synopsis for it, it does look like a Longlegs tone type movie, so I'm a little bit more excited now for that. Hopefully they don't. It's not a comedy again, but
Yeah, vice versa. If I hear that monkey jingle, it'll be too soon.
I'm so glad I did not buy the popcorn bucket. Because imagine just like turning off your lights and you can just see the eyes going. That monkey is so creepy.
It's insanely creepy.
Which I'll give them credit for that.
They did a great job with that.
They did. Well, that was this episode on Real Films on the Monkey. Go Utes!